Fort de Pointisse, the fort that lent fire support to all the surrounding forts, the infantry, and to Fortress Epidemol on May 10th, when she was trying to get paratroopers off her back. It is a fort that was not restored into a museum. It was used briefly after the war and then stripped of everything and abandoned. And you can see it was commissioned 1888. This dates back way further than World War I, World War II. This is the one driving entrance to the fort where the munition and supplies would come into and be stored. It's predominantly an artillery fort, but for World War II, machine guns, some 230 men were stationed here, fought here, and eventually ran out of ammunition and was bombed into submission and surrendered.
Fort de Pointisse was one of the 12 forts that was built around Liege in Belgium in the late 19th century, this one constructed between 1881 and 84. It was built according to the plans of General Henri Brialmont. Him we will hear a lot more about since he had a lot to do with fortress construction in that era. Now, this fort for the first time was built exclusively of unreinforced concrete, at that time a new material rather than masonry. During both World War I and World War II, the fort was heavily bombarded by German artillery and saw extensive action. The fort was built as an irregular trapezoid. A 6 by 8 meter ditch or moat encircled the fort within. The principal armament was concentrated in the central massif. The ditches was defended by 57mm guns that was later upgraded to heavy machine guns. This was an artillery fort. The armament included 2 turrets with a single 21cm Krupp gun, a 15cm turret with twin guns, and 2 12cm turrets with 2 Krupp guns, all for long-distance firing. There was the 4 57mm gun turrets that provided the local defense, and also an observation turret with a searchlight. Today, the fort is occupied by horses, donkeys, and bats.
Finally, we have boots on the ground. I'm back in Europe. I just got out of the airport, rented a car, and went straight down here to Fort de Pointisse. And this is an important day because today, 80-some years ago, they surrendered to the Germans on this very day. This is one of the forts that had lent fire support to Fort Epidemol when they realized they needed someone to shell the Germans off the back. Fighting went on very seriously around here in Liege. And this is one of the things that I cannot stress enough. This is the reason I started Lost Battlefields. I read the battle accounts of some of the forts that fought here. And when you just read the history books, when you just see, well, the French, they were swept aside by the Germans, the Belgians, the Dutch, they were just overrun. Germans won the war in a few weeks, end of story. It is not the end of story. It is very much not the end of the story, because the story is in so many forts like this, Belgians, Dutch, Frenchmen, they fought and they died where they stood. A lot of final last stands. They had battlements, machine guns, mortars, cannons shot away from under them. They were repaired. They were surrounded in the forts. They were lending support to each other. This is one of the forts that lent support to the other forts, and the other forts lent support to them. All of these were interlocking fields of fire. They had every roadway, every forest, every clearing mapped out so they could shell the Germans wherever they assembled. And they caused the Germans some very significant losses. And these forts now lie here, slightly forgotten. But people fought and they died, and they fought well here. They had the battlements, machine guns, cannons shot away with under them. They had the cannons destroyed and repaired while surrounded and kept fighting. These are the personal stories that you do not hear when you talk about the Battle of France. That's why we hear. So here would be one machine gun position that would be able to defend to the main entrance down here. And you have magazines that are now donkey stalls. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with the donkeys living here now. Hey now. I wanted to get straight out of the airport and show you this. And look at this. Look at these pockmarked walls everywhere. The Germans were shelling these forts with artillery, Stukas, bombers, whatever they could. And they suffered because Belgians fought back. Here's a nice little interesting outcropping, this sort of blocking. A little bunker that faces both ways. A lot of the weaponry, the domes have been dismantled in the 50s. This was a fort that existed during World War I, when they shot black powder guns here. They have all these little battlements. And before World War II, it was upgraded, rearmed, and prepared for a modern conflict. I see down there, as you turn the corner, the emblem we got in here, there's more machine guns covering them.
At every other corner of the moats, you'll find the gun positions. You'll find the 57mm cannons, and at the others, like here, you'll find the counterscarps. These would absorb or catch the munitions fired at the enemy that might have penetrated into the moat. So, of course, the fort would not completely destroy itself by its own fire. There was also searchlights that would aid in the firing of these guns. And after the 30s, the fort were upgraded and machine guns were placed here as well. Also in these scarps, you would have the kitchens, the barracks, and the bathrooms. Now, some of these Belgian forts did have some problems. One of them was they made very little provision for the daily needs of the garrison. Like the latrines, the showers, the kitchen, the morgue, were located in the fort's counterscarps, a position that would be opposite of the barracks, making it impossible to get to during combat or battle.
I do like these arches. Obviously one's been bricked up post. But this is a little bit of a throwback to the 1800s. And of course, it's been used for storage. You always thought of World War I as taking place in the trenches only, but you're wrong. World War I took place in forts that were then upgraded and became part of the fortress lines for World War II. But don't think everything was just muck and mud. World War I was the first modern war, but the foundations were laid 30, sometimes 40 years before, like this. This is an amazing fort. It's like a castle just built in concrete.
What many people seem to forget when they speak of World War I, it was a meat grinder and millions of people died, many of them absolutely needlessly, because the commanders of the day were still trying to get a grip on the tactics now used. But World War I was really a continuation of the Franco-Prussian War that had ended in the late 19th century. The French were not happy, and the Prussians were on their soil, building fortresses, experimenting with new technology, steel domes, cannons, breech loaders. The black powder was on its way out slowly. World War I was fought in underground tunnels, in bunkers, in fortresses, very reminiscent of what you see in World War II. And over the next many episodes of the series, The Evolution of Modern War, I'm going to show you the evolution of how we got from a Hadrian's Wall to the Atlantic Wall, because the technology and the lineage started way before World War I. And here you see these forts that was built after the Franco-Prussian War, put in act for the World War I and again for World War II with upgrades.
And during World War I, the first Battle of Liege, which is about 7 kilometers from here, the Germans fought and bombarded this place. And guess what? World War II, they did the same thing, but the fort had up-armored a bit between the wars. Just look at the damage this has taken. And here it is, the day of its final surrender, the last time in its last battle.
An additional problem these forts had was they were constructed with a lesser defended rear and walls that were less thick facing the rear away from the enemy, expecting that if the Germans took the fort, the Belgians could easily attack it and recapture it from the back. So the forts were literally, well, built to expect to be taken, to be retaken. Of course, the Germans just went around and took the forts from the rear because they were fully well aware of this, and the same went on in some of the Maginot Line forts.
And it was interesting because most of the cannon positions, long-range artillery, was Krupp guns before World War I. But the fort had some layout, some design issues that after the Germans had taken it, well, they started by fixing the bathrooms, and I guess you can't really blame them for that. And in the 30s, it was further upgraded, preparing the defensive line for what will inevitably become World War II. It is, as I have said, now occupied by a bunch of donkeys. Cute, actual donkeys. And I am dying to see what is up here on the roof in the center. So I'm sensing we need to go uphill. After all, I had my first gas station ice cream, of which will be the diet of the month. Food is not really in the budget. So, let's Billy goat it up here because there must be, despite all the domes, cannon positions, what have you, having been dismantled, there must be something up here besides a spider. And after all, it's a very nice Belgian gentleman who didn't speak a word of English who told me I could look around. Whoa! Okay, slippery moss, no heels. Didn't have time to put on boots. Okay, what have we here? Here's a bunker down there. And here I am on the roof in the center of Fort de Pointisse, where behind me the cannon positions, and they were, like I said, providing fire support for Fort Épinal initially on May 10th. And after that, they provided fire support for a bunch of other forts and for infantry units that was fighting nearby. And we're going to see and hear a lot more about those. There's about 230 men that were stationed here on that time, and they held out for about 8 days of bombardment and assaults, and being surrounded and almost out of ammunition. There was nothing else they could do. It's hard to see here in the forest remnants because it's so covered and overgrown. I'm standing on top of, this was one of the cannon positions. See if I can crawl into it. And you can clearly see where the bank was. And here's their separation between them, which extends quite deep. It's the small things. Good to see all these mounds, and they're fairly close together, which was one of the signs of the World War I forts. They were not spread out like the ones that was built specifically for World War II or the Maginot Line. So when you took out one, you wouldn't take all of them by a few lucky heavy bombs or heavy artillery shells. Although from World War I, Pointisse was designed to be able to hold and withstand 200mm shell fire.
Unfortunately, the domes here have been removed by scrappers in the 50s, but I did find 1880s domes and cannons resembling this at an amazing fort I visited in Denmark, and of course there'll be a full episode from there. Now, the roof of the fort was 4 meters thick, designed to withstand 21 centimeter cannon fire, just like the fort's own. During World War I, the Germans found that somewhat annoying, so they wheeled up 42 centimeter artillery and pretty much bombarded the fort into oblivion. Between the wars, it was rebuilt and it was reinforced. Also, already during World War I, 1916, the Germans began to rebuild the fort, adding better sanitary arrangements, ventilation, reinforced concrete. So when the Belgians got it back after World War I, it was, well, upgraded, and the same happened for World War II. At the outset of World War II, it was exposed to heavy artillery fire and air bombardment. Both the 105mm turret and the 76mm turrets were damaged. On May 18th, after being out of ammunition, the fort inevitably surrendered. But they had held up the Germans for as long as they could with what they had, hindering the advance routes and assembly areas around the fort with their artillery.
And here's another. It could also be a pit that's covered up. I'm going to see if I can go downstairs here in the center and crawl in, and see what we'll see. It's a little hard to discern what's left, and there are so many craters here. Could be from bombardment, could be just natural decay. Pretty sure we can't blame it on the donkeys. I'll try to walk over. Here you can see it better. And you see the rebar sticking out. A lot of this is just battle damage. It was some very serious fighting. And here, overgrown over there, is another one. I can see a little hole in there. Yeah. Again, battle damage. So we'll come up. Alright, we're on top. Down here. I guess we can call it a moat for now. We'll call it a moat. I like that word. You see more cement sticking out. It is very overgrown. After World War II had ended, it was used initially by the military and then by civilians as ammunition storage, ammo dump, and then eventually dismantled in the 50s. And you see a side over there that is actually brick on one of the walls. I feel I'm on a ridge. I don't know if you can get the idea that I'm on a ridge here, and then there's on both sides what's probably running trenches, I would imagine. And again, something that looks very much like nice 500-kilogram bomb. Didn't penetrate, I don't think. But there's certainly hallways underneath. And when we see the other forts and we can get inside, you'll get a much better idea of just exactly how elaborate the preparations for both World War I and certainly World War II was in France and Belgium. It is not at all what you've been told. Here's a circular structure that's nicely pockmarked, and I think I need to get over on the center of that because I think that is the center of the fort. So yeah, we're on top of what is an interior fort. No trees grow here.
The craters for the 210mm would by far be the biggest, but there's also the 75mm turrets and the observation dome, and I think this is that one.
We have the rebar. One of the rebar that's exposed. The rebar that's exposed on some of the German World War II fortification looks less worn and torn than this. What we have here. Oh wow. It's a little kind of hard to show you through this maybe. There's a little door down there. It's also closed. So there's a huge fort underneath here. There's also a watchtower, and they could communicate with the other forts with lighting. Certainly flares. A lot of flares went up over Ebidemal when the gliders arrived, and later when the Stukas did. Here is a very large hole that's been covered up. Wow. This must have been one of the larger artillery pursuits. Okay. This is where I would say son of a donkey. Whoa, look at that. Look at that down there. This must have been one of the artillery positions. See down there? It's the entrance into the fort. This is very large. It wouldn't take that much work to get through there, but I'm hoping there might be a door somewhere. Wow. Look at this. Look at this hole. There was a few single cannons. There was also a few doubles. Wow, look at this. Wow, I would like to see if I can get us in there somehow. It's hard to show you through this mesh, but I understand why it's here. There's a lot of kids that play here, and a couple of young girls were taking care of the donkeys, and it would be absolutely terrible if they came up here and fell into one of these cannon positions. However, down there looks like something where Mr. Struckmann should go and show you, see if we can't sneak in there. I think we need to put a drone in the sky so you can see, wow, exactly what structure I'm standing on. This looks like, here's an indent. Yeah, down there must be some sort of an entrance. If I can get to it, we'll try. Oh hell, we'll try right now. It's not like this is going anywhere. So, you see this whole, was a huge structure. Underground. I wonder how thick it is. That looks like there would have been an entry there. And here you have something that clearly looks like bomb craters from heavy bombing that would have taken place here. And this place was repeatedly attacked by heavy artillery, Stukas. I have no idea if I can get in there. Let's see. Haha. How do you like that, kids? I should probably bring out the bigger flashlight for this. What do you see? I figure if I don't come back, sooner or later the old man with the donkeys will steal my rental car. And my ID will pop up somewhere. Look at the domes here. Look at the arches. Sorry. We're not going to talk about mosquitoes in here, but believe me, they're here. Yes. Water. No. Shit. Damn it to hell with the handbag. You know what, guys? I'm gonna get really fucking wet, and I don't care. We're just gonna have to deal with that, aren't we? Yeah. Look at this. The inside of Fort Pointisse, which is really wet. And that's the way in. I like that somebody put bricks here, considering that they're all underwater. Oh, never mind. Here's the walkway up. Oh man, look at this. It goes right up. Why can't I get through here? Well, this is not going anywhere, and I don't see anything to cut there. God damn it. Communication. I knew I should have brought my diving shoes with me. We also know that if I had, I was still going to put them on for this. Ooh, here's an exit. Okay. Let me come on the other side. So you literally walk in. So you walk in this little room. So there's several entrances. So there's probably going to be entrances matching on the other side, which is cool. And look at the hinges here on the door. This is probably munition storage, maybe, but it had access to the cannons. There's for lighting panels on the wall on both sides. And look at the arched roofs, arching up with metal and then cement and concrete upstairs. Amazing. I'm thinking this is definitely World War I design. Oh, yes. And look at how big this is. So maybe if on the other side there would be an entrance that somebody had forgotten to cover up. These things happen, you know, all the time. Alright. Well, stepping in the water woke me up, I'll say. It woke me up a little bit there, that's good. Alright. Yeah, this is circular. This is probably where I came down and walked over. Nope, haven't circled it yet. I'm working on it. Yeah, this is where I came down. So if we follow the ditch around, got to get some map before I post this for you. I'm going to do some quick and rough episodes of this. And when I get home, I'm really going to dive into what was here and how it worked. Painstaking detail. Ow, nettles. Ow. Let me get rid of all this wildlife and get down there. Ow. Really want to get us into that pit there. It's just everything's scrap. There's nothing in there. Oh, do I see something that looks like? I do. This looks like an indent. This looks like how do I get over there? I walk around where I was before, past the other entrance, and then I walk down to the side because that looks like another entrance. All right. As you can now tell, we circled the fort at the top. And this is in the center, surrounded by the star of walkways and kill zones outside. Absolutely amazing. Alright, let's get over there, see if I can get in. And here's that circle gun position. We went in over there. So, if we circle it to this side, maybe, just maybe, I can get in here. Ow. Alright, so far not overly promising. Alright, now I will remind you all that A lot of these forts had moats, drop doors, all sorts of security measures that people has fallen into and died. I'm not intending to do that. Just before you get some wonderful half-cooked idea, you know, like the ones I always get, that you're gonna go stomping around old battlefields. Want you to remember that. Not more than a couple of months ago, an explorer at one of these forts fell in the moat inside the door where there were punji sticks, and he died. Now, this is the other entrance, or what's left of it. Had some damage, but there's no more entrance here. I don't know if here was once a vehicle access. Well, if this was the main artillery fort in there, some sort of access road to the outer walls where trucks could come in with ammunition would make sense. And since it's a long time ago, this could easily have been destroyed. However, speaking of destroyed, I'm standing on rubble. Lots of rubble. Something was here that looks like it was blown up. This could have been an entrance into the center of the fort. It's sort of... it does look that way. Overgrown with moss. Some piece of cement here. And a something. Judging from the shape, I'm thinking this was, yes, this was a gun position. Ow! Yep, here's another gun position. There were several entrances down below. Remember in previous episodes, keep talking about the poles that is protruding the earth in Europe. These concrete poles with barbed wire. Well, the barbed wire does look a little newer. It could be to keep the donkeys from coming up here. The poles look fairly authentic in some way, or at least they have some age to them. Now if I jump here, is there a hole? I can't tell. Alright, we're just going to climb down the tree instead. Go down the side and see what's there. Well, there's an enormous hole. Nothing could have made an explosion that big unless a magazine was outright hit and exploded. And here, it'll be interesting to find out a little bit more about this fort. I just wanted to visit it because there's not a museum here. All the active remains have been removed, so there really is not much to see except what we're seeing. But I wanted to visit because they took part in the battle to save Ypres. I'd love to get in there, I really would, even though I'm not entirely sure there is any in there anymore. And here in the side you see the different magazines where, well, post-World War II they stored munitions here. Somehow I think they probably did the same thing then. It would make a whole lot of sense if they did. Wonder if somebody left the door open for me. They did. Wow. Okay. They're using it for storage. Can't blame them for that. Oh, this is just a little shallow. Yeah, there used to be an arch. Somebody put a little wall on it, but this is just a small munition storage. Okay. We all know I was looking for tunnels leading inside. I just wonder if the pockmarks here by that machine gun, if this was just fire. If the Germans had come in here into the kill zone and were just shooting at this. If it had been World War I, it would have been repaired. After World War II, there wouldn't be much need. By the time they got the fort back, the war was over. And hay for the donkeys. Well, a fairly tall room and a fairly tall door. I wonder how deep this is. I'm not going to pull the hay out to find out. I love you guys, but I did just land a few hours ago. Maybe tomorrow. Since you're going to leave a window open. I'm guessing this was more munition storage. It's very crude, rudimentary. Looked this way for hundreds of years. This is one of the windows. Although why would there be munition storage with a window? Alright, so we're going to go with it might have been an office. I am guessing a little bit on that. Fortunately, the only minefields I have to worry about is the ones the donkeys left behind. Okay, you have my attention. Ooh. Danger, yes. Hello. Well, ain't that just dandy? Somebody just left the damn door open. And this is the room, okay. Looking at the floor, I'm guessing there was a generator. Maybe. Electrical. Well, there's electrical that looks like, period or not, hard to say. Like tile floors. I don't know why I always whisper when I get into a place where there's an echo. I think that's human nature. We do that, don't we? There was a wall protruding there. So, well, the sign says attention and danger. I know that's a Simpsons joke, but that must be my middle name. Snacks, they can't be dangerous. You don't know why I'm laughing. My great-grandmother had wash basins just like these, where she would pour in the boiling water. Tile, could be some bathroom, something. And we had another. That looks authentic, doesn't it? Air conditioning, venting, a vent. I have to smile when I see these. My great-grandmother, she saw both wars, or lived through them. She was awesome, she really was. And nice, they leave papers with things written in French. Yeah, we're back to that high school French again. This is very nice. It's very, very neat. They left this open. This is a nice little hooked corner here. I would imagine this would have been offices, washrooms, logistics. None of this particular screams fighting position. I wonder what this was. There's a door here. There's, no, Don't know what that one's done. Huh. Oh, back up in there. And we were in there. The door has been closed. Do you remember what I said about being locked in here? Or did I just think that on my inside the head voice? Well, yes, my first day I got locked in. I have gotten myself locked in to Fort de Pointisse on my first day back in Europe. Yay! Oh well then. What do we got in here? Oh, since I've been locked in here, well, we'll explore. Ooh. I'm sure I'll find a way out. See, these are the drop doors. This is where the danger comes in. This is the stuff you need to be aware of when you're exploring these places. If this slab, if the water had covered this, I have no idea how deep this drop is or what's here. But this would have been a firing port, clearly. Alert, gas. Very, very cool. Except for the fact where, and here would have been a firing position too. That's gone cemented up. Wow. Well, I'm watching my step. It's getting very tight here. Well, the old dude said I could look around. Okay, I'm guessing this could have been an emergency exit. Well, yeah, it looks a lot nicer in here. All right. Okay. Don't worry, there's much more light to come. Flashlight's dying too. So I just got here. Didn't plan on needing it in here. Didn't plan on getting locked in. Alright. So that was neat. Yes, I have officially been locked inside the fort. There's a ladder. It has a big padlock on the front door. This is where communication in languages. Sometimes we go amiss. So let's see if I can find a different way out. Some that does not involve climbing barbed wire. I know they didn't put up this to keep me out, keep the horses in. And here are the horsey donkeys. So this is movable. I will disconnect. Wondering why this idiot American is crawling around the fort. I'm guessing up there is my way out. Okay, some way that shall never be revealed, I made my way out of the fort onto this very old dilapidated barn where more donkeys live. But that's Europe for you. Old buildings, forts, bunkers, everywhere. People are wondering why there are these strange historians walking around talking to themselves. Now I think it's time for a shower, because at 7 o'clock tomorrow we're going to start the journey from World War I to World War II. And I'll show you exactly how hard these guys fought. Hi, my name is Tino Struckmann, and this is my YouTube channel. I hope you enjoy history and military history as much as I love bringing it to you. And if you want to see more of the photos and documents I've used for these episodes, documentation and so on, you can go to lostbattlefields.com. And if you feel like helping me out traveling around the world to some of these far-flung locations like Van Braun's first test stand behind me, or Deepna's nuclear reactor down there, or the Matsuda line over there, you can donate on PayPal, protection@serviceint.com. It'll be right here, and it is also on lostbattlefields.com. You absolutely don't have to, but I appreciate any help, and I love all you guys for all the support you've shown me, because history is important. We all know that, and I'm going to bring it to you.